Okay. Welcome to the second episode of The Ride. With me today here, I have Ludwig. We're going to be talking a little bit about building companies, growing companies, maybe touch upon how we have gone through some IPOs and our common history. Ludwig is the CEO of SaveLend, and I will let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Perfect. First of all, welcome to our office.
Thank you.
You're responsible for this slogan, more or less.
More or less, a little bit. I had a little bit to do with it at least.
So my background started my first company when I was 11. Since then, I've been playing poker professional for 7 years. I was also an affiliate of Poker Listings 10 years ago. And nowadays I run SaveLend.
Excellent. And we'll be touching a little bit on personal stories, etc. today. And I think, going back, like, where did you start feeling you had the idea of SaveLend? Like, can you enlighten us a little bit where this started? Like, and as most people, like a lot of people, they have an idea. A lot of people, there's a million people like, I have a brilliant idea, I'm going to do this. But the step from having an idea to execution is where most entrepreneurs fail. And clearly you have not.
Not so far.
Exactly. So enlighten us, like, where did this become reality?
I think nowadays you can't have that many new unique ideas. So you really need to find different ideas and put them together and work something out of it. But it's more about grit and not to quit, actually. But the idea of SaveLend, that is a saving platform, came in 08, 09 after the last financial crisis, where I lost a lot of money at the stock market, and I wanted to have a more stable return, and that wasn't as volatile as the stock market. And then I found that you could invest in credits in the UK, in the US, but you couldn't really do it in a good way in Sweden. So I just had to start my own company to see to my own needs.
But for me, it boggles the mind a little bit. Because you sit there and go like, oh, I can't invest in credit, so let's build a platform that I can use myself. Yeah, it's hats off a little bit. And to the viewers here, to shed some light on it, I'm also a board member of SaveLend, and I got to know Ludwig actually when Ludwig was in the board of NLab. So I got to know you about 4 years ago or something like that. More, maybe 5, when I came in as the CEO of NLabs, and there was this like really young wild gun in the board that consisted of, let's just call it a little bit of older men, and then there was this basically young entrepreneur / poker player and party animal, if you want to be really honest with it. Those were the good days, and now I have the fortune of having the tables turned, because now I'm in the board of director in this company, and I can pay revenge on you for asking me stupid questions or good questions back in the day. So that's a little bit of our history, and it'd be interesting to hear like what you have also picked up going
from
through.
You, nothing.
Who would? Who would? But through, because clearly you have not just been doing SaveLend, but like, and where do you say like the common touch point? Because you have been involved in something that is related to basically what I do, which is in the gambling industry. And you've played poker, you've been in the board of directors for an iGaming operator. And what kind of similarities do you see? I have my view on this, but it'd be interesting to hear yours.
I would say it's networking in different aspects. I mean, I got on the board on NLabs through the network, and I was also the only one in that board that liked regulatory aspects of the business. So I think networking and make sure that you are out and about and meet people, so you actually get invited to the room where the decisions are made, and that doesn't have to be in the board. To be completely honest, it can be in sub sections off with the board members, and you just need to figure out where to make the decisions. But so that is one thing I see in all different companies. It's you need to understand where the decisions are made and get in that room if you want to be part of the business. And then you have all of the same things with marketing that are mainly the same in iGaming. I mean, we also calculate cost of acquisition, lifetime value, and try to stay on top with our customers and to make sure we deliver the best experience for them. So running and building a company in different industries are pretty much the same.
That is something I really agree with as well. I mean, I've run an advertisement agency. I worked in, gaming, not gambling, but I worked for DICE and Electronic Arts, and you keep finding that the core of running a business is pretty much 90% the same. It varies a little bit of what you do and in what context you do it. I mean, clearly, if you run a listed company like both of us does, it requires a lot of external communication because of regulatory aspects, etc., and talking to investors. But what I learned coming into the board in this company, in SaveLend, was very much that my skills can be applicable to a lot of the same problems, although I have had to learn a lot about debt market, financing, credit risks, and all of these things that I think is joyously fun, especially all the regulatory framework. And
you love it.
I do love reading like credit policies and all of this, like 60-70 documents, and
you have had a lot of input on them.
Yes. Yeah. I am. That's typical me. I'm very risk averse. Easy, read all the yes, that's me. No, so but that is really it. And what do you see the changes? Because I also, again, like I've been through this, but what do you see as being a CEO of a company from being unlisted to going through a listed period or a listing process and then coming out on the other side? And being a listed company, because you've done this now over the last 2 years, you've gone from one state to another. And how have your life changed on a personal level?
I think both on a personal level and on the business side, becomes more and more clear what I actually do during the days, and I gather information. And nudge people in the right direction. So the bigger we get, the less decisions I actually make. So now when we have a management team built out, they make the decisions. I only help them make the decision or nudge them in the right direction. But a good day is a day when I haven't made a single decision.
Again, we tend to see things very similar, and I believe that the idea of a CEO is always to make yourself redundant. Because if you can create an organization where you're not needed, you have succeeded.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fault themselves with trying to make them as important as possible. I think you should try to make yourself as least important, because that means you have a smooth running organization underneath you. And I think if we want to touch upon that a little bit, I mean, I've seen you go from that when I started to know you, even before I got involved in SaveLend, you were very much hands-on. You were even like coding and God knows what, and you were so hands-on. And then I came in the board and we've gone through the process, and I've seen how you have successfully kind of removed yourself from operations a lot. But obviously you've also had a little bit of personal reasons over the last 6 months, 9 months to do so. I'm very happy to see that you're doing well and you are healthy, but when I got to know you, you were one of the most hairiest men I've seen, like in face, hair, and I told you nobody trusts a bearded person. You even went on Twitter and asked your followers if you can trust a bearded person. Come back that apparently you could.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to say that you are now a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
But there is a reason behind it, obviously.
Yeah, I'm a CEO of a listed company.
Yeah, clear. Welcome to... No, but... I know that you've been going through a tough time, and I'm so impressed with how you dealt with it. Maybe you want to explain what you've been going through yourself a little bit?
Sure. And I mean, if you just go back a couple of years when I was hands-on, we were, of course, slightly less people. We now are now around 80 people, I think, 75 to 80. And 2-3 years ago, we were 20 people. So, of course, you had to do a bit more hands-on, but it has always been the goal to not be needed in the day-to-day operations. And I think I'm there right now. And July last year, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. So it's a really good survival rate for the 10 years. The past maybe like 6 to 9 months, I've been in and out of hospital doing chemo, and it's been 7 times, I believe. And the last 2 were 21 days in the hospital. It was really, really boring and really bad internet connection, and really bad things on the TV. But now I'm on the other side in a good way, and now just wait and see game, more or less.
Yeah, and waiting for the hair to grow back, I guess.
Yeah, it has started.
Yeah, I can see there is a little bit of a fune, as we call it in Swedish.
Yeah.
I don't know how that translates to English, so we leave it at that. No, but I've been on the sidelines of this because I'm engaged in the board with this company, but it's tremendous to see how you have, your mental strength is impressive, to say the least, how you've dealt with this and how the company has also dealt with it. And in a way, I think the company is coming out better and stronger because of it, because it had to learn how to cope with Ludwig not really being hands-on all the time, and now you have a really mature structure. The leadership of the company has developed, not necessarily, so it has accelerated that a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's probably the good thing that could have come or that came out of it.
For sure. Well, I mean, that has worked really, really well. And what we have seen has been lacking is like the vision and maybe the 3 and 5 years plan. And I think there is where the board and the CEO can really play the biggest part. But the day-to-day has been perfectly fine.
It's good. So let's move this conversation on to communication and being a listed company, because again, I like communication, you like communication, and what do you see as your biggest challenges now when you're a listed company, and how you talk to your basically, or our customers, but also our investors?
The biggest challenge is somewhere when you do your reporting, it's already all news for us. I mean, we release a report in mid-May, and then we're in the mid of next quarter and only focusing forward. So it's really hard not to be influenced by the current quarter, and you need to look back and you only want to look forward. So I think that is really a hard balance to keep. Because you need to focus your organization on what has already happened, and you want to move forward. Other than that, it's to have to make sure that your communication is within your strategy, but it is also very good that you are held accountable for what we have said. So before I write every CEO letter, I go back and read my 4 latest just to see what I have promised and to make sure we are on track.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you're always measured. I agree, because you can sit, when you have gone through this, you're halfway through the next quarter, and you kind of feel that you want to talk about a lot of things, and it feels like you have to go back so long. And I know exactly the feeling of like, okay, but I want to talk about this because so much good things are happening, so much exciting things are happening, and I guess it's just the world we live in. And when the first time I got in touch with working in a listed environment was when we sold River to a listed agency network back in 2013 or 14 or 13 it was. And then my then CEO for the whole group, he because I I came from the cowboy part of the world in that sense. You know, we were driving an agency and had to learn, as he said, that we need to, a listed company is like running a marathon, but in 400-meter intervals. And it's quite tough because every quarter you need to perform and you're measured on that really short sprint a lot in the quarter economy, as we are as well. Everybody looks to the quarter. And it's quite hard to find that balance between the long-term actions and performing on the quarter, because the market is quite unforgiving if you take too long to execute before they see growth. And I'll just, share a little bit of a personal experience here. I came into Acroud 2 years ago, and there was a lot of work to be done. I'd say that I underestimated the amount of work that was done, and it always felt like the change is coming, and I kept writing in my CEO words that, I feel that, we are really on the brink of taking off. We're really on the brink of, and it really became quite repetitive, and almost like I just felt stupid writing it, and I felt like, oh my God, am I just, what is it that I'm not seeing? But in the end, I'm happy to, we did the right choices. We did buy the right companies. We did the right changes. It just took too bloody long time. But finally we are there, and we just now basically released a week ago a trading update where we finally see proof of this. But you can also see the punishment from the investor market during this period. So how do you find having to balance short-term decisions versus
learn in this period?
Oh, so you counted this. Well, I've just really just stuck with the long term, and like if you're in it for a bit longer, do the long term. And my view is do the long term thing and kind of, but you need then to prepare the market for it. And I think where I went wrong is that I actually thought our changes were going to come quicker, so I didn't communicate that properly. And it's not because I tried to not say it as it was. It's because I genuinely thought, based on what I could see, that we were going to see the catch-up effect of all this. And I could always just see it. It just kept like moving a little bit further in front. So I should probably have set further expectations that we are in this like turnaround phase is going to be longer than the dip. It just flattened out, and now finally, but it's just further stretched. But you then need to set those expectations. That's my view. And I mean, I guess for SaveLend, you're a clear growth company.
Yep, for sure. And I think the old saying is true, that it always takes twice as long as you think, and it costs double as much.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's really hard because, as you say, the investors in the stock market should be in there for 5 years. But if we look at the turnaround in our stock, I think it's more or less 2 to 3 months. So they look quarter on quarter instead of year on year growth. And in a quarter, you can't really do that much. Maybe you launch a new campaign, but you will pay for it, but it will be shown in numbers the coming 12 months. And I think it's a lot. As a CEO, you need to be stubborn and look at your long-term goals and try not to be affected with your own, with your daily stock price. But at the same time, you need to make sure it's kept on a stable level, because we both use it for acquisitions. So you need to deliver in the short term as well as on your long-term goals. But I don't have a good answer.
No, it's hard. Yeah. So it's also about setting on a board level, right? Yeah. Because they are the people that will review your job.
Yeah.
And from personal experience, I'd say that last autumn was quite a tough period, because these changes were really needed. I'd had a year and a half that change needed to come, and I'd say that I'm now I feel quite relieved that it's proven my train of thought was there. But I've started to have a few doubts myself.
And you had to let a few people go as well.
Yeah, but we did have an efficiency program we let some 20 people go. But I think not so much just from a cost saving perspective, but we had so much underlying change in the process of working to actually become more cost effective as well. And we have the software also to support doing that. But it also, for the people that stays, it's refreshing and it kind of binds the group again. We needed the cultural change. So I think when you get into this point where you need change, you also need to dare to do big, bold changes, and people will grow from it. People go like, oh my God, we can't let this and that person go. They are irreplaceable. And then you let them go and something else pops up, and that is even better. That's my genuine experience from doing this in many
fire slow and fire fast.
Very true, actually. Very true.
But hard to do.
Hard to do, yes, because you're often blinded by a lot of people that influences the decisions, and a lot of people will have very sound reasoning for all their opinions why you can't do that and why you can't do that, and sometimes you just need to go for it in that sense. So now that we've talked a little bit about the organizational stuff, so what lies in the future for you to start with now?
For me, personal or for the company?
Let's start with a little bit of personal, because you're coming out now on the other end of quite a rough year as well. You have SaveLend, you're the CEO of SaveLend, but I'm guessing work is not the only thing you do.
Okay. Well, I mean, I will try to go back to the gym. Right now, if I do, I have no muscles left. I haven't been allowed to work out since July last year. So basically, I can't do one pull-up. So I have a long road ahead of me to get back in shape. So that is not the main focus, but a big focus to just get back in shape and to get back to normal energy level. Right now I'm sleeping 8 hours per day and I need it. So, and that's a big...
Per day or per night?
Per night. So I mean that is a big change. You losing 1-2 hours per night that I had during the day before. But maybe I'm just getting older as well. I mean, I turned 30 last year.
I see the underlying insult towards my age there. Screw you.
But other than that, SaveLend is moving in the right direction. We are welcoming a lot of investors from other European countries now in Q2. We will onboard some new customers, originators from other European countries. So we will be a pan-European company by the end of this year, for sure.
Yeah, and I, from also sitting in the board, I think what I like is that SaveLend feels like it is really clearly just on its start of its growth journey. There is so many exciting things ongoing, and it's thoroughly impressive to see how the company have evolved over the last couple of years. It's a different beast nowadays.
Yeah, and I would say a different beast and a different base. I mean, we have really staffed it for the future growth. Right now, I think with the current personnel, we could do double the revenues and with the same level of personnel. So the scalability of this business is huge.
So would you then say that you see a potential hockey stick in the future in terms of cost staying linear while revenue grows faster?
For sure. We had a workshop, all of the staff, a few weeks ago, where we said we won't hire a single more person. It will be this group, and we need to double, or we will double our revenues. What do we need to do to make that happen? And all groups, they were divided cross teams, said this is doable. So we really have the buy-in for it, and the understanding of the staff that it won't be. If they have repetitive work, it needs to be handled by the system, and it shouldn't be another person doing the work. So that is also a mindset. We need everyone to be entrepreneurs. They need to think, how can they make their jobs easier by using the computer systems, whatever.
Clear. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of round this off a little bit now. But what would you say? There will be a lot of well, investors out there, you're a brilliant investor, but you've gone through a lot of personal stuff. But first and foremost, you've successfully built this company. So leave us with, a few wisdoms. If you like, your key to success, like why are you where you are today? What's gotten you to this point?
I would say the best tip I have is to build your own like board of advisors. As a company has their board of directors, you should have your own board of advisors, and it can be in different areas, but it could be one successful entrepreneur that can help you in your growth. It can be a legal person that can just help you to be on the right side of the law. But you should have so networking and make sure to have maybe 5 or 6 people that you trust and that you can ask. And that, because that has helped me a lot, since I have a lot of like network from when I played poker, and that's 15 years ago, that I still work with today. So networking and to build your own board of advisors. And then I would say to get back or to make sure to get in the room where the decisions are made, as we talked about in the beginning. And I would also say, what more? A third tip. I should have prepared for this.
Well, that's my plan. Like, if we prepare too much, it won't feel natural.
No.
So if you manage to only do 2, well,
the third is, I would say, if you're starting out in your career, make sure to eat the frog for your boss. And what do I mean by that?
Yes, please explain.
Yeah. Understand what your boss doesn't like to do and get really well at doing it for him or her. That way you will be seen and you will get to know the business in a way, in a really good way. And it will clear the path for future success. And I think that is something I have done with the regulatory thing. For envelopes, for example, no one else in the board liked the regulatory, but that way I made sure I should stay on the board. It wasn't always comfortable.
No, it's also quite it's a different part for a young entrepreneur to take, going into a board where, a little bit more senior gentleman sits. You expect this entrepreneur to come in, be the young, wild, like throttle, like pedal to the metal, let's go on all cylinders. And then you come in and go like, well, if you read the framework, it says in paragraph 2,
Yep.
It's quite contradictory. And then you went out like partying nighttime when you were young.
Yeah, it was a lot of years ago.
Many years ago. So it was a little bit contradictory. I always found it really interesting in the beginning when I got to know you, because I always found you quite hard to place. And I like people that are hard to place. It's like an onion, so many layers to it.
Yeah.
So that's, and I agree. Like, for me, I think the one thing you said last is like, I remember I started kind of getting it's when I offered to do stuff that wasn't necessarily on my desk. And I've come to realize that when people that also work for me behave like that, I appreciate it a lot. It's like, I always stepped in and I took responsibility. I saw when no one is doing that, or when it's like my then boss, I said, okay, like, do you want help with that? I remember so clearly, because he was talking about, and I said, do you want help with that? And he said, this is the first time someone ever asked me if they offered the help to do my job. And I think it's a very good wisdom. And I have personally a lot easier to promote people. If someone comes to me and says, okay, I can do that job over there if you promote me to this and this and pay me this much more, I will take that thing over there. For me, it doesn't become very interesting. But if someone says that they see a gap, look, someone's not doing that, or we could do that better, let me do that. It takes not that long if that person does that, where I go like, that person should have another job and another salary. And in the end, you will, as a person, you will achieve the same thing. Well, not actually, because when you take on responsibility and do it in such a way, it will clear the path even further next time. But if you end up like trying to to kind of blackmail or drive a hard bargain to start with. If you are willing to show that you can do something, appreciation will follow. At least if you have a decent boss like you and me.
Exactly.
Like nice
Fantastic.
people. Fantastic bosses. Then that will come. So I would encourage people that want to do a career, don't be scared of taking on more responsibility, but also do it in a way that people know you're taking it on, but don't demand something back. And obviously, if 6 months passes and you're doing twice the job and nobody notices it, you need to have a talk with someone and put your foot down. But don't box yourself in too much. And I agree. That's kind of one thing. And then for me, it's also like never take on something, or don't stop yourself from taking on something just because you don't know it. You will learn.
Yeah.
The first time I got my CEO job, like, I'm sorry to say, I barely couldn't read the P&L. Obviously, I didn't tell them then. Now I can really well, and now I can hammer it out with my CFO, and I can, IFRS and accounting and all that. But, you learn on the job.
Yep.
Raise your hand, work hard. Yeah. And with that, I think with these wise words, I think we can round off today's podcast. Please remember to subscribe. And I look forward to talking to you again in episode 3. Thank you very, very much. Bye.